Managerial Accounting, Cost, Volume, Profit Analysis, Assumptions. Now that we have learned what variable costs are and how they behave as activity changes, and what fixed are and how they behave as activity changes, and also how to separate a mixed cost into its fixed and variable components, we can begin doing some analysis and projecting what profits will be under certain activity situations. Now, in order to do that, we have to make some stabilizing assumptions about certain elements of the income statement. And the first assumption that's necessary for us to do a valid cost, volume, profit analysis is that sales price will remain constant. Now, if sales price changes, then every aspect of the income statement is going to be affected. So in order for us to analyze or play what if with different activities, we need to assume that the sales price is going to remain constant so that other related items on the income statement will not be impacted by the change in sales price. The second assumption is that costs are linear. Now, as we saw when we looked at the high-low method and the scatter graph and regression, that if costs are not linear, then it's very difficult to predict how they're going to respond to changes in activity. So a second assumption, simplifying assumption of cost, volume, profit analysis is that costs do indeed behave in a linear fashion. The third assumption has to do with our definitions of fixed and variable cost, and that is that the activity changes that we're going to play with in cost, volume, profit analysis are within the relevant range. So activity is within the relevant range for our definitions of fixed cost, the total not changing as activity changes, or variable cost, that the per unit figure stays the same over a certain range, that those definitions will be true as we perform the cost, profit, volume analysis. Now, the fourth assumption is that for businesses that sell more than one product, that the mix, the sales mix of those products will be constant. Now, just as with sales price, if we change the mix of our products that have different prices and different contributions to profit, then that's going to change the whole income statement. So we assume that that sales mix, whatever it may be, is constant as we perform the analysis. And then the final assumption, for a merchandiser in particular, but also for a manufacturer, the final assumption is that inventory levels do not change. Now, since some of our fixed costs may also be product costs, those fixed product costs attach to the inventory. And we'll learn in a later chapter that if inventory levels change, then part of that fixed cost gets deferred. In other words, does not show up on the income statement as an expense. So if inventory levels change, then again, our profits will be impacted by something other than true changes in activity, true changes in sales volume. So these again are simplifying assumptions. Now, if something does change, for example, if in doing cost volume profit analysis we say, well, what if we increase the sales price? How is that going to impact profits? Well, if we make that change, then we also have to modify other relationships. For example, if the sales price changes, then the sales mix may also change. And if the sales price changes, then that may cause our activity level to change as well. So if there is a change in one of these assumptions, then we have to incorporate that change into our cost volume profit analysis. And we'll see more about that as we take a look at CVP.